Okay. יש לארגון הבינלאומי אין פה בדיוק שיש כתובת חוק, אולי שפותחים את המשרד. הם יכולים הנה, פה, זה כתוב. Congregation Torah Or, Century Village West. Your name is Par Rechov. Good morning, welcome back. You heard we're in the library today? Okay. Good morning. How you doing? Good morning, Mel. Good morning. We had a little close quarters today. Coffee. The coffee is in the kitchen across the way. Okay. We don't mean to rush your butt, but go as fast as I can. That's good. Some people have the minhag of putting on their palace and still and sitting down. Those are called spiders, right? No, it's true. Some people have the minhag of putting palace and still in another location. So if they come ready to download, they go. Exactly. They come. Right, they come, they. That's right. You're more than welcome. Alan, send me your email because, all right, because I want to be able to let you know these couple of days if we're running late. Okay, I don't know if I have it for sure, okay?
Sure.
You can hear me.
I can send it right now on chat, over the, is that all right? Or should I? Oh.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Where do you want to sit, sir?
Okay.
You want to sit on that side? I usually sit over there. That's
Okay.
I just sent it.
Don't sit in my hand.
Okay.
For the chair, are you?
All right, don't worry about it.
By the way, I have to leave, Rabbi.
Had a minion in here?
No.
Rabbi Green. Rabbi Green.
Yeah.
I have to leave early today. I have a dentist appointment, so I'm going to have to leave early. So
Okay, no
if I
problem.
it's a little early, you'll know why.
All right, no problem. Okay, no, you're good. Okay, I'm going to start the learning sponsors while we're making the transition today. I knew it was going to be a little bit tough, but right, we'll make do for today. Tomorrow we'll probably be back upstairs. Okay. All right. Year of learning by Suanani Gerlich in memory of Malka Pro Man and Philip Man. And Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Sparrow ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Henya Rivka Pro Rosna bat Arav Tzvi Hirsch. And in memory of family murdered in the Holocaust, Arav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bet Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch. Sharon and Fred Lisker, their family and many friends. In memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Edelbat Yaakov, Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Sedell, Irving and Pearl Kaplan. Friends of Avi Gitler, Avram Meir ben Shimon and Martha Gitler, Cherna bat Yeshaya. Children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Sarah Tova bat Yisrael Dov in her memory. Friends of Joe Wolf, Yossi ben Chaim, Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata bat Asher. Friends of Nina Mornester, Nachama Asna bat Yitzchak Aharon. A month of learning by Boca Babes in memory of their dear friend Susan Wertman, Chaya Sarah bat Alta Yosef, Chaim and Phyllis Reese in memory of his father, Mordechai ben Yom Tov Lipa, myself, wife Karen and friends in memory of her mother, Nechama bat Moshe HaKohen, Charlie Gelfenstein in memory of his father, Yaakov, Marcia Federbush in memory of her father, Princess Ben Abraham, Rebecca Lewis and Susan Watansky in memory of their aunt and sister Miriam Bat Yosef and Devorah. Today is the 1st of December, Roslyn Hamada, in memory of her father, Yosef Ben Chaim, and Shemus Heaven Aliyah, thank you, Rafia Vati, Shem Atliya, and the Chol B'nai Israel, a good Gaben Shjar. Okay. Okay. I think that, okay. All right, are we ready? Okay. All right. Oh. Okay, so let's get underway. And today we're on Yud Tet Amud Aleph, right? Okay, just to pick up, we are on, I'm not going to do through the whole Mishnah again from the bottom of Yud Chet, but we see there at the top of Yud Tet, excuse me, Otaha Ir Mataneh, okay, again, what happens if it rains in one city but not in another city? We see a machloket here, right? And that was the machloket. Rabbi Akiva is going to disagree, I believe, with Rabbi Yossi, right? Or with at least with Tanakama, right? One city fasts and warns, and the environs of that city fast and don't warn. Rabbi Akiva Omer says, Rabbi Matriot v'lo mitanot. He says that they warn, they sound warnings, but they don't fast. V'chein ir, and we're on 3 lines down on Yud Tet, Amud Aleph, right? V'chein ir sheyesh badever o mapolet. Okay, so we're starting back there today. Okay, and likewise, a city, if it has pestilence or some sort of a catastrophe with buildings falling or earthquake, that same city fasts and makes warnings, and the surrounding area fasts and does not make warnings. Okay, so what happens? Rabbi Akiva is going to disagree again. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Matriot v'lo mitanot. says they make warnings, but they do not, fast. Ezehu dever. Now we start the new material. Dov, you've got a seat someplace?
Sit over here, I'll get a chair.
There's chairs right here. Okay, right here.
Want the Gemara? Oh, yeah. Good.
All right. Okay. Ezehu dever. What is an example of pestilence? Ir hamotziach chamesh me'ot raglei. It's a city that can produce an armed force of 500 men. V'yatzu mimena shlosha meitim b'shlosha yamim. And within 3 days, they have one dying each day. Okay, one after the other. Okay, so harei zeh dever. That's an example of a pestilence in a city. Pachot mikan ein zeh dever. Less than that, it is not an example of a pestilence. Al elu matri'in. Okay, b'chol makom. But now, says the Gemara in a new piece, on these we make warnings, okay, in any, I'm going to say, translate b'chol makom, in any situation, okay, or in the following situations. Al hashidafon, okay, if we have a blight, v'al hayirakon, okay, and if we have mildew, okay, v'al ha'arba, and about locusts, v'al hachasil, and about, one translation says caterpillars, another says crickets. Okay, right? Well, locust we had was arba. Okay, all right. V'al hachaya ra'ah, and on wild animals. V'al hacherev, and on the sword. In other words, if an enemy army is surrounding them. Matri'in aleha mipnei shehi maka mahalechet. We make warnings about it because this is going to be a ongoing situation. It's spreading. In other words, they'll go from one place to another. So we want to warn other communities. Okay?
Like we had with the COVID.
Sure,
Yeah,
that's spread, and it still is.
All right. So that's an example, right? Now the Gemara picks up and is going to tell us a story. Maaser sheyarduz keimim Yerushalayim le'areihem. A situation when elders, sages, left Jerusalem and they returned to their cities. Because Ruta Anit al Shenir Kimelo Pitanur Shidafon Ba'ashkelon. And they made a decree, a fast day for fasting, because there appeared a blight which was the size of the opening of an oven, okay, in the city of Ashkelon. Okay. Blight, I didn't see any much explanations to that. Could be, let's say, some sort of a plague, some sort of a mold, a pestilence, things like that. In any case, what happened? Va'od gazru ta'anit al sha'achlu ze'evim shnei tinakot be'ever hayadei. And further, they made a decree of a fast day because 2 wolves ate children, okay, on the other side of the Jordan River. However, the Gemara tells us, Rabbi Yossi Omer, lo al she'achlu, ela al she'nir'u. Not that they ate them, but they were even seen. Okay, wolves, remember, travel in packs, and therefore the danger that they will spread in the area. Okay, a new piece in our Gemara somewhat. Okay, as it tries to explain. Al elu matri'in b'Shabbat. On these we make warnings, and remember one of the issues that we argued in a previous Amud about warning was, do we do it simply by sounding shofars? Okay, we would think that would not be done on Shabbos. However, the Gemara is telling us as follows: Al ir shehikifuha nachrim, on a city that is surrounded by Gentile troops, O Nahar, or a city that is in danger of flooding, Va'al hasfina hamitarefet bayam, or a ship that is struggling along the coast. In other words, it's caught in whatever. Right? Rabbi Yossi Omer la'ezra v'lo l'tzaka. According to Rabbi Yossi, in that situation of the ship, we calling for help but we don't call for a praying out loud, either anenu or other kinds of prayers. Okay, Shimon Hatemani, he says, Omer, Af al hadever, v'lo hodu lo chachamim. He argued even on pestilence, but the sages did not acknowledge that position. Al kol tzara, shelo tavo al hatzibur matri'in alehem. Okay, and this is euphemistic saying on any trouble, distress that really does come on the community. We make warnings, rov shamim, with the exception of an overabundance of rain. And here's a famous story about an incident that happened with Choni, the circle drawer. Hit Paleo, okay, they said to him, Shir Duk Shamim, go and pray that rain will fall. Amar lehem, he said to them, Tsa'u v'hichnisu tanurei psachim, go in and bring in your clay ovens that you usually use for baking for matzah. Those ovens were usually kept in the chatzer of the house and not inside the house. Okay, so bring them in, b'shvil shelo yimoku, so they won't melt because they were made out of clay. Right? Hit paleo. Right? What oven? Okay. Keep your dreidels out of the rain. Okay. Hit paleo v'lo yerduk shamim. He worshipped, he prayed, but the rain didn't fall. Ma'asta, what did he do? Ag uga v'amad b'tocha. He drew a circle and he stood within it. V'amar lefanav. And he said before lefanav, notice before Hashem, Ribono shel olam, master of the universe. Banecha, all right? Samu pnehem alai. Okay, they focused their faces towards me. Why? Sha'ani kaben bayit lefanecha. Because I am like a well received, a frequent visitor. I'll put it that way.
Takes a lot of chutzpah to say that, doesn't it?
That's why he's Choni Hamagel. Okay, right? That's why the story. All right, Nishba ani b'shimcha. I took an oath. Hagadol, in your great name. She'eni zaz and the your du katiknam ad sheyatzu Yisrael miyushalayim lahar habayit mipnei hagshamim. Until there was so much rain in Jerusalem that people had to go to Har Habayit. They had to go up to the hills, right, the mountaintops. Ba'u v'amrulo. Okay, they went and said to him, to Honi at this time, Kashem shehitpalalta aleihem sheyurdu, kach hitpalel sheyelchu lahen. The same way you pray that they should come, pray now that they should stop. Amar lahem. And he said to them, Tsa'u ru'u im nimchet. Go and see if they've been reduced, if they've washed away. Evan hato'in, the rock, a major rock that was in the center of the town, where people would go to announce lost and found objects. That's Evan hato'in. Shalach lo Shimon ben Shetach, and Shimon ben Shetach, remember, who was considered one of the leading chachamim. Il malei choni ata, if you weren't choni, right? Gozreni alecha nidui. I would have put you in excommunication. Okay? Aval ma selach. What can I do to you? She'atam mitchate lefnei hamakom. Because you basically nag. I like that translation. Lefnei hamakom v'oseh lecha ritzoncha. Because you nag Hashem, and what does he do? He does your will. Keben shahu mitchate al aviv v'oseh lo ritzono. Like a son who nags his father, okay, and his father does the will of the son. Va'alecha katuv omer, and about you we say in the pasuk and Mishlei, Yismach avicha ve'imecha v'tagel yeladatech. Okay, happy as the parents, okay, regarding the children. Okay, notice now we have, my Gemara has matnitin in parenthesis, okay, to indicate whether this is really a new Mishnah or whether this is really a continuation of the previous. Hayu mitanin v'yardu lehem gshami. Okay, they were fasting, okay, and the rains fell. Kodim hanetz hachama. Before the sunrise. What happens? Lo yashlimu. They do not need to complete the fast. Lachar hanetz hachama. If the rain didn't come till after sunrise, yashlimu. They do need to complete the fast. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, he says, Kodim chatzot. If it's before noon, lo yashlimu, they don't need to finish the fast. Lachar chatzot yashlimu. After the afternoon, they must finish the fast. Maaseh shegazru ta'anit belud. And a situation where they once decreed a fast in Lud. V'yardu lahem kshamim kodem chatzot. And the rain fell before noon.
Is that noon or chatzot?
Noon. I think. Amar lahem, he said, Rabbi Tarfon, Tze'u v'echlu v'shatu v'asu yom tov. Go out, eat and drink and make it a yontif. V'yatzu v'achlu v'shatu v'asu yom tov. And they did, went out and they ate and they drank and made it a yom tov. Uba'u bein ha'arbayim v'karu halel hagadol. And it came towards evening, in other words, mincha time. Okay, let's assume whether it was mincha katana. Okay, I'm going to suggest, right? And what did they do? They did included Hallel. Okay, Gemara now. Seder ta'aniyot. This order of the fastings. Ha'elu ha'amur b'revi'ah rishonah. We said this seems to be directed regarding the very first rainfall, the early rainfall, right? Right. So what happens though? We're minhei, but we have a contradiction, says the Gemara. Revi'ah rishona ushniya lish'ol. When it comes to the first rainfall or the early rainfall and the second rainfall, that's the time to ask, to request. Shlishit. But when it comes regarding the third time for the rainfall, if it still hadn't rained by then, lehitanot. That's the time that's to fast. Amar Rav Yehuda, says Rav Yehuda hachika amar. This is what it means to tell us. Seder ta'aniyot amor ematah. When it says the order of the fasts, what is it trying to tell us? When is that the case? Bizman shiatza revi'ah rishona ushniya ushlishit. That's the time when it's past the early, middle, and later rain, the third rain. V'lo yardu gshamim, but it still hasn't rained. In other words, it's past certain times of the year, certain months. Okay? Remember, the Gemara has told us it should theoretically be Mar Cheshvan, if I remember correctly. All right, and then into Kislev. Okay, and then so on. All right? Aval yarduk shamim b'revi'ah rishonah. But if rain fell in the first rainfall, the early rainfall, v'zar'o lo tzamcho, and the seeds did not sprout, in other words, stalks did not start rising from furrows of ground, right? Okay. Inam itzamchu v'chazru v'nishtanu, or possible the stalks of the seeds grew, but then they came back and they changed. In other words, they became diseased, all right? Matri'ina lehen miyad. Then we send warnings about it immediately. Amar Rav Nachman, says Rav Nachman, davka nishtanu, particularly if they changed. Aval yavshu, lo. But if they dried up, no, that's not the case. Pshita nishtanu, it's not. Obviously, the brightest said if they changed, that's what was taught. Lo tzricha, says the Gemara, da'akun. No, it was necessary to tell us because we're talking about da'akun, the stalks themselves, that they changed. In other words, it's one thing if the seeds, little sprouts, okay, don't grow or don't progress. But when you have stalks already and you see that they're wilting or things like that, that's indeed a problem. Mahu detema. What are we talking about? Akanta, on the stalks. In other words, they've begun to turn bad. Miltahi, indeed, that's a bad thing. Kamashmalan comes to teach us that's why we needed to say the Braita to tell us you need to make warnings immediately. Right? Okay, let's go on. Yeah.
When irrigation systems got developed,
Yeah.
I wonder if some people said, no, we can't use mechanical, we have to wait for rain.
Well, remember we're talking about the difference between the geography of Eretz Yisrael, which they totally really needed on rain, versus Bavel, where they probably had more rivers and therefore already used irrigation as well. Okay. V'chein shepaskuk shamim bein geshem legeshem, said the Mishnah. And if there's a break between one rainfall to the other, more than 40 days, right? Mai makat batzoretz, we ask them. What do we say? How do we define an occasion of drought? Okay. Amar Rav Yehuda, says Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, Makah hamavi'ali de batzoretz. We're talking about a plague that brings about a drought. Amar Rav Nachman, says Rav Nachman, Nahara and Nahara. Okay, and there are two explanations for that. According to one, Rav Nachman is saying maybe that's not exactly a drought because we can transport food from one river to another river. Okay, a second explanation, which was Rashi's, was that the river dries, all the rivers have dried up, and therefore you must divert water either from another river, okay, to something, or you have a famine when indeed all the rivers dry up and you have no opportunity for irrigation, okay, and you still don't have enough rain to provide. Okay, let's go over to the next Amud. We're on Betsorta. It says, what does it mean? How do we define then this issue of a drought? Medinta, Amadinta. Maybe it's from one province to another province. Kafna. What about a famine? Okay. So we're asking questions. If we've said that you have to warn and declare a fast, under what conditions? Under what situations?
They're saying that they're not going to say that when it's in the higher the river to the river situation, that's how we define it with Cyrus. When you talk about going from one Medina to another Medina, which is much more widespread, that's a road, which is more severe.
That's more severe. Okay. All right. Kafna, a famine. Va'amar Rabbi Chanina, says Rabbi Chanina. What's an example of a famine? Se'ah b'sela. That normally a se'ah of a field, a field of a, okay, that measures a se'ah, sells for a sela, okay, ushchicha betzurta, okay, and we find therefore what, okay, that now that is going to be considered a batzoret, okay, a drought. Arba'ah, okay, if it sells at 4 coins, okay, 4 sela for that same size field, velo shchicha, and that's not usually a situation that we find, kafna, that's considered a famine. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, he says, lo shanu ela bizman shehamaot bazo. That was only taught at a time when coins were cheap, okay? In other words, available, found, okay? Uperot biyoker, and the produce was expensive. Aval ma'ot biyoker uperot bazo. But in a situation where coins are expensive and the produce is cheap, matri'ina le'miyad, then we warn people immediately. Okay, right? Da'amar Rabbi Yochanan, as Rabbi Yochanan says, Nahirna, I remember, Kad Havu Kaime Arba Sa'in Basela, that once it occurred that you had 4 Sa'in, in other words, an area of produce from a field that was 4 seah, okay, and that was selling at a single selah. Vahavu nafishe nafiche kafan, okay, B'Tveria midalit isar, okay, and we saw then that this was people's stomachs were swollen by hunger, okay, in Tiberias, and why? Because they didn't even have a smaller coin, an isar, okay, okay. Now says the Gemara. Yerdu l'tzmachim avalo le'ilan. The Mishnah said, what happens if the rain was adequate for plants, but not for the trees? Bishlema l'tzmachim. That's acceptable for the trees. For the plants, I'm sorry. Velo le'ilan, mishkachat la. Okay, that we can find that could occur. Da'atanecha velo atet razaya. That the rain is a gentle rain and not a heavy rain. Le'ilan v'lo letzmachim, for the trees and not for the plants. Da'atya razya v'lo atya necha, that then the rain is coming heavy and it's not coming light, pleasant, right? Lezeh v'lezeh, it's good for this and this. In other words, tzmachim or ilan for plants or trees. Aval lo leborot, not for the cisterns. V'lo lesichin, and not for the ditches. V'lo lema'arot, okay, v'uma'arot, or for the caves. Mishkachad la. We could find that to happen. Da'atya razya v'necha, because then the rain could come both heavy and light. All right, what do we mean by that? Mihu tuva lo atya. But for the rain to come in an appropriate volume, in adequate abundance, okay, it did not come. Elaha detanya. What about here, where we teach the following in a Braita? Yordu, right? Levorot, lesichin, lema'arot, that the rain fell enough for the cisterns and the ditches and the caves. Aval lo lezeh v'lezeh, okay, but not for the trees or the plants. How is that possible? Da'atya v'shafichuta, okay, that here we're saying it's coming in what we might call a heavy downpour. Okay, Tanu Rabbanan says a Braita. Matri'in al ha'ilonot bepros ha'pesach. Okay, that we make warnings in regards to question of adequate rainfall for trees. Okay, befros ha'pesach, half before Pesach, in other words, 18 days before the holiday. Al habarot v'sichinu ma'arot, in regards to water for the cisterns, the ditches, and the caves. Afilu befros ha'chag, even in the middle of the holiday. V'al kulan im ein lahem mayim l'shtot, and on all of them, if the rainfall isn't adequate provide drinking water. Matri'in alehen miyad. Okay, we then make warnings immediately. Ve'ezahu miyad. Okay, shalahen. And what do we mean immediately according to them? Sheni v'chamishi v'sheni. Okay, declare fasts for Monday, Thursday, Monday. Va'al kulan ein matri'in alehen ela ba'afarchia shalahen. Okay, but we don't make warnings on these days except if it's in their province. Okay, so what happens? Says the Gemara, asking another question about a different kind of calamity. Va'askara, we might call that, according to some translations, diphtheria. According to others, it was croup. Okay, bisman sheyesh ba mita, and it, as a result of this disease, it causes deaths. Matri'ina leha, we make warnings about it. Bisman she'ein ba mita, in a situation where it doesn't cause death, ein matri'ina leha, we do not make warnings about it. Matri'in al hagovai, but we do also make warnings about locusts, right? Bechol shahu, of any amount, okay? Because the locusts were going to spread from one location to another. Rabbi Shimon ben Eleazar, Omer, he says, af al hachagav, even about grasshoppers. Okay, so some felt that the grasshoppers were as dangerous to the crops as were the locusts. Tanu Rabbanan is a new bright. Matri'in al ha'ilonot b'shar shnei saboa. Okay, we make warnings if there's a problem with the trees during various years, I'm going to say, of a sabbatical cycle, okay, of the 7-year cycle. Al haborot va'al hashichin va'al ha'ma'orot, in regards to the cisterns, the ditches, and the caves. Afilu b'shvi'i, even in the sabbatical year itself. Okay, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer says as follows: Af ha'ilanot b'shvi'i, even about the trees on the sabbatical year itself. Because that is a means of sustenance, I'm going to translate it, for the poor. Tanya Ida. And now another bright tells us. Matri'in al ha'ilanot b'sha'ar shnei shavua. We make warnings about the trees, okay? And remember, we're talking about fruit trees, okay? For the most part, okay? During the other years of the sabbatical cycle, al haborot, al hashichin, ve'al ha'me'orot, on the cisterns, the ditches, and the caves. Why? Afilu b'shvi'it, even in regards to the sabbatical year itself. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, he says, Af al ha'ilonot, matri'in al hasfichin b'shvi'it. It says, according to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, we make warnings even regarding trees for their, what I'll call, aftergrowth or self-growth. In other words, trees that may sprout by themselves as a result during the sabbatical cycle and the sabbatical year. Right? Because they again provide sustenance to the poor. Okay, let's go with a new bright. Tanya says, it says, Amar Rabbi Elazar ben Parta. Miyom shecharav Beit HaMikdash ne'asug geshamim simukim. From the time that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, the rain has become, according to one translation, difficult, okay, or limited, might be another possible explanation. The olam yesh shana shegeshameh hamerubi. We see, again, he says, that there's times when the year has an overabundance of rain. V'yeshana shegeshmeha mu'atim. And then there is a year when the rains are limited. Yeshana shegeshameha yordin bismanan. There's a time when the rains come in the appropriate time. V'yeshana she'en geshameha yordin bismanan. And a time when the rain doesn't come in its appropriate time. Shana shegeshameha yordin bismanan. At a time when the rains come appropriate time. Lamahu domet. What is it we compare it to? Le'eved shenatan lo rabo parnasato be'echad b'Shabbat. To a servant whose master has provided his sustenance on the first day of the week. In other words, he gives him all his food sustenance, and the servant then has enough food to measure it out and carry it out, provide for himself the whole week. Okay? Nimtseit esa ne'afet katikna. In that way, his dough is baked properly. Okay? And v'ne'achelet katikna. And it can be eaten properly. Right? What happens, however, shana she'ein geshameha yordin bismanan. But at a time when the rains don't come appropriately, lamahu domer, what is that compared to? La'eved shenatan lo rabo parnasato be'erev Shabbat. Okay, it's when his master gives him his food, okay, on the eve of Shabbos. And what happens? He doesn't have a lot of time, okay, to prepare his food, to get it together, right? Nimseit esa ne'afet shelo katikna v'ne'achelet shelo katikna. Then the bread, the dough, is not baked in the adequate manner, and it can't therefore be eaten in its proper manner. Okay. Furthermore,
Have matzah instead of bread.
could be, right? Shana shegeshameha merubin, a year when the rainfall is overly abundant. Lamahu domeh, what is that compared to? Le'eved shenatan lo parnasato bevat echat, that the master gives him all his sustenance at one time. Nimtseu rechaim tochanot min hakor. Therefore, we compare that to a mill house that grinds its grain, okay, from a small area of a field that normally would give a core, another small measurement, okay? Masha tochanot min hakav v'nimtzeit esa ochelet min hakor. That where you would have ground the amount of grain from a large field, namely a kav, all you get is enough dough from grain that would have come from a smaller field. Okay, it's as if you're saying, for example, that if I have 5 acres of land and I give that grain, some of the grain is lost. Okay, either the millstones, it's attached still to the millstones, or the wind blows some of them away, and as a result, I'm left with a much smaller amount, as if I had only gotten it from a small field, from 1 acre. Okay? Kamo ochelet min hakav. Right? So therefore we have dough that was eaten from the core, that it's only from the kav. Shana shegeshameha mu'atim. In a year when the rainfall is minimal, lamahu domeh, what is it compared to? Le'eved shenatan lo rabo parnasato ma'at ma'at. To a servant whose master has given him his sustenance piecemeal, right? Nimtzeu rechaim masha tochanot min hakor, tochanot min hakav. And there we find that whatever grain is ground, in that case, from a core, from a, let's say, medium-sized field, it's ground as if it's from even a smaller field. We find that the dough that therefore can be eaten from the core, ochelet min hakav, he eats from the kav measurement. Davar acher, another example, right? Bizman shegishameha merubim, at the time when the rain is overly abundant, lamahu domeh, what is it compared to? La'adam shemegabel et hatit, a person who is kneading clay, im yesh lo mayim rabim, if he has a lot of water, mayim einan kalim v'hatit megubal yafeh. The water is not used up, and the clay is kneaded properly. It's well, right? Im yesh lo mayim mu'atim, if he only has a minimum amount of water. Mayim kalim, the water is used up. V'hatit eino mitkabel yafeh, then the plaster is not kneaded, is not mixed well. Tanu Rabbanan, another brighter. Pam echad alu kol Yisrael l'regel Yerushalayim. At one time, I can't believe that the entire country did, but a majority of the country came to Jerusalem to observe one of the pilgrimage festivals, right? V'lo haya lehem mayim l'shtot, and there was not enough water to satisfy all of the pilgrims, right? Halach Nakdimon ben Gurion. This Nakdimon ben Gurion, who was apparently one of the wealthiest men in the city, okay, went to Eitzel Adon Echad. He went to a particular, and I'm going to assume it's a Roman lord, okay, who had water cisterns. Amarlo, he said to them, Halveni shtei mesrei mayanot mayim, okay, loan me, okay, 12 mayanot springs of water, le'olei regalim, okay, sources of water for the pilgrims. Va'ani atem lecha shtei mesrei enot mayim, and I will give back to you, I will pay you back 12 sources of water, streams of water. V'im eini noten lach, and if I can't give it to you, hareini noten lach shtei mesrei kikar kesef. If not, then I will pay you 12 coins of silver coins. Okay? Okay. What happened? Kavalosman, the Roman authority, I'm going to suggest, fixed a deadline. Kevan shehigia hazman, once they arrived to the deadline, v'lo yerdug shamim, and the rains had not fallen b'shachrit that morning, shalachlo, the Roman lord sent to him, shagarli o mayim o me'ot sheyesh li biyadecha, send me the water or the coins that you have in your hand. Shalachlo. Right? So what happens then? Nakdimon sent him back a message. Adayan yesh li zman. I still have more time. Kol hayom kulo shalihu. The entire day is mine. But Saharayim in the afternoon, the Roman lord sent. Okay? The following message. Shagali omayim omaot sheyesh li biyadecha. Send me the water, okay, or the coins that are mine, that are in your hand. Shalach lo, he sent him back a message, Nakdimon. Adayan yeshli shahut bayom. I still have some time. Okay. Bamincha. Okay, I'm assuming hopefully this was Mincha Gadola. All right. What happens? Shalach lo. He sent him a message, the Roman lord. Shagali omayim omaot sheyesh li biyadecha. Send me the water or the coins that are mine, that are in your hand. Shalach lo, he sent them another message, Nakdimon. Adayan yesh li shahut bayom. I still have some time. Ligleg alav oto adon. And that particular Roman lord mocked him. Amar, and he said, Kol hashana kula lo yerduk shamim. The entire year there was no rain, right? V'achshav, we'll go over a little bit, everybody, okay? Yerduk shamim, now rain is going to fall, okay? Nichnas lebeit hamerchatz. So the Roman Lord went into the bathhouse b'simcha. Here he's thinking, oh, look what I'm gonna get, right? Ad shaha'adon nichnas b'simchato. Up to the time that he went in to the Beit HaMerchatz with it joyfully, LeBeit HaMerchatz. Nakdimon nichnas LeBeit HaMikdash. Nakdimon went into the Beis Mikdash kashu atzav, and he was sad. Nitatef, he wrapped himself in his talus. Va'amad b'tfilah, and he stood in prayer. Probably Shmona Esrei. Amar lefanav, he said to Ribono Shalalam, Master of the world. Galoi v'yadua lefanecha, it's known before you. Shalo lichvodi asiti, lo lichvod beit Abba asiti. I didn't do it for my glory or for my family's glory. Ela lichvodcha asiti. Shayu mayim mitzuyim le'olei regalim. That there should be water for the pilgrims. Miyad, immediately, nitkashru shamayim ba'avim. The heavens became full of clouds. V'yodug shamim, and the rains fall. Ad shenit malu. Okay, shtei misrei mayinot mayim. Okay, until there were 12 sources of water filled. Vahotiru, until they overflowed. Okay, all right, and that's where we're going to stop in just a moment. Ad shiyitzei adon mi beit hamerchatz, until the Roman Lord came out of the merchatz. Stay tuned tomorrow. Okay. All right.
I'm a little troubled by all this, because this is really teaching us that whatever you want to ask for, you can get if you see what I mean.
No, on the contrary. On the contrary.
Gotta be. Right? Question is, what the purpose? What's your intent?
Sure. Yeah, like, I want to